Hi, everyone. Hello. You're welcome to another section of Let's Discuss, another series of Let's Discuss, where we talk about practical matters that impact on our life and faith. You're welcome. Like we always say, the purpose of Let's Discuss is not to lecture anyone, but to provide insights, wisdom, and knowledge in order to equip us to prepare better for our voyage to heaven, but also to be very relevant here on earth so that when our scorecard is being called up, we score excellent marks. For some people, it's about purpose, it's about achieving what God has asked them to do. And for others, it's about picking up some useful tips and practical insights and understanding how to react and interact with our world. So you're welcome, no matter what your aim is and why you are joining in. Don't worry, we've got you covered. Last week and the week before, we've been talking about a very important topic, and that topic has to do with being able to remove the log from the eyes. And we started by saying it's so important to understand why this topic is important. There were lots of contribution during the first session, and we moved on to get to a position where we understand the log, we understand why it needs to be removed, we understand what needs to be done to remove that log. And today we will conclude on the topic because I think we've been on it for so long that if we're even removing the logs by now, they should all be removed. So today we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about how to remove the log. We'll be talking about how to ensure that we are living the life we're meant to live, how we can not only live the life we're supposed to live, but how do we help others to live the life they're supposed to live as well, even though it may not be something that is particularly pleasant to them, or they may not be very excited about it. Let's go into it very quickly. The first thing which we pointed out is last week was that you can't influence someone who believes that the way they're treading is the right way. It's difficult for you to influence someone when they have already made up their minds. At times we struggle and spend a lot of time trying so hard to argue, trying so hard to motivate, trying so hard to inspire. But people have to make up their minds. Hence, God Himself had to say, look, anyone who accepts Christ will be saved. It's not me compelling anybody. I'll put in the tools, I'll put in everything you need, but you have to make that decision yourself. You have to get to that position to say, this is the right way, this is what I want to do. When you get to that position, you'll be so surprised that God has already put those things in place for you in order to get that energy, in order to get the advancements you so need. That is the purpose of the gospel itself, and that's how God has set it up. In a similar way, we as well need to understand, and I'll talk about three key things for us to understand. Number one, removing the speck in somebody's eyes is not easy. If there is a log in your eye, what's that log in your eye? I'm classifying that log as ignorance of the fact that people may decide not to change, even if it is for their own benefit. They might say, look, this is not something I'm really excited about, so I'm not going to change. And we need to acknowledge that. We need to respect that. We need to know that in order to remove the speck from somebody's eyes, you need to remove the log from your eyes. And if you're ignorant about the fact that some people will never change, no matter what you say, it helps us begin to feel better. Then we can take those people to prayer. We can take them to God. We can prayerfully encourage them and not get emotionally invested. One of the things that causes a lot of heartache is by getting emotionally invested in a result or an outcome. And the person that drives that outcome isn't in the game at all. You then spend a lot of time wondering what's going on. That didn't this person get it? Didn't he or she understand why they need to do this? We need to understand that we cannot change anybody. We can influence people. And the second point would be how we can better engage and influence people so that we can drive a better outcome from them. The first point I said is understanding that you can change people. We need to understand that and not get emotionally invested. Take it to God in prayer. Continue to prayerfully, speak to the person. Don't give up, but do not become emotionally invested. And that's one of the things the Bible is talking about as a log, our ignorance, that as long as we're able to state the case and show the person that what you're doing isn't the right thing. If you do XYZ, you can actually get this result, and the person changes. It's a fool's errand. No good comes out of it eventually. The second point, like I said, is how do you influence people? How do you make them see beyond the log in your eyes? And the log in this situation, we've talked about the ignorance that people can change, or the belief or the stubborn belief that you can prevail on someone to change. The second one is a bit more like, I'll call it typical of how I say it. I won't call it manipulators, people who manipulate, but people who have high emotional IQ. Emotional IQ means people who understand emotions and they know how to play to get what they want. You can make people see beyond the log in your eyes, but that requires a lot of observation by yourself, requires a lot of understanding about the nature of the person, having some information or all information if possible. Armed with that, you can then influence the person in a way to say, look, let's forget about this log you are looking at. Maybe that log could be your not being knowledgeable about a subject matter, and tell the person, I know you XXXYZ, you want to do XYZ, and this is the best way to do it. And you can also point out the implication if the person doesn't do it in that way. Some people would turn back and say, well, it's not that easy. I know I've tried to, and are there any examples? Has anyone tried it before to say, look, you had a very good conversation. You pointed out the benefits and the disbenefits of going through a particular process or way or decision, and the person came round and didn't do it. Some people say it's not easy. Some people are so hardened, they've made up their minds to follow a particular path. Then you switch to B. I'll say number one is to have that conversation. Number two is now to understand what triggers the person, what makes the person happy, what makes the person sad, who does the person respect, who motivates the person. And when you begin to understand that, you begin to understand how can you influence the person, what's made the person change their minds in the past, how can you what can you learn or use out of that example that has made the person change their minds in the past. So, like I said, number two is a bit more hard work. It's about being deliberate, trying to understand the person. And once you understand the person, you can then propose to the person a plan or your opinion. And depending on your understanding of the person, you then know whether the person isn't accepting what you're saying just because you're the one saying it, or if or he's not accepting because he likes ideas to come from himself, and you might then think about prompting an idea in the person's head. So that is a more involved way of trying to ensure that you still get across to people, even when it is so hard to get across to them, even when it seems that they're not listening or don't want to listen. You go the extra way. We've talked about prayer as well. There's nothing prayer cannot do. Prayer makes people realize things. Prayer makes people, as long as they're open to the Holy Spirit and open to hearing from God, prayer changes the trajectory of their actions or the course of their lives. But there's the final one, which I would, begin to close with. And the final one is so important. We've spoken about it in the first session, is that whether we like it or not, the reality is that people will not do or follow someone who they do not respect. So let me break that down. There was a story in the Bible in Ecclesiastes about a very wise man. The city was about to be destroyed, and this wise man said, "Let us do X, Y, Z." They did it, and immediately the city was saved. They forgot the man. People tend not to follow people they do not respect. If people don't respect you, it's only a matter of time. They would not listen to you. They might listen to you in some ways, or they might just fake attention, but they wouldn't be there constant. They would look for reasons to stop. What does that tell us? That tells us that there's a need for us to improve ourselves so that people then listen to us. There's a need for us to ensure that our packaging is all right, our substance is solid. When you're about to advise people and people ask you a few questions and you are lost, you don't even know where you are, people tend not to wait around. People leave. When you are talking about ABC, people would look at you that does this person have experience of this ABC? That's why you'd say a lot of people say, "Oh, this is my mentor." My mentor is people that they've never met before, people who tend to have millions of followers, people they've never had a conversation with. But they look up to those people and say, "That's my influencer, that's my mentor, that's the person I look up to," even though they don't have any direct relationship with that person. They are looking up to that person because of the success the person has achieved. Whether we like it or not, that's the bitter truth. Everyone would like to mimic a successful person. It's the human nature. This third point is for us to work on ourselves and ensure that in anything we do, we achieve as much as God wants us to achieve. Which is why I said remove the log in your wood, in your eyes, and you remove the speck in other people's eyes. That you have a great calling, you have a great destiny, you have a great future. Rather than spend time or waste time trying to remove speck in other people's eyes, if you remove the log in your eyes, you might end up being very successful, and these same people that you are worried about would be the ones now coming to meet you to say, Please tell us about your God. We want to serve your God. How did you do it? Tell us, inviting you to webinars, to seminars, to talk about a wide variety of topics because of the success. The success like riches has many friends. There's a need for us to think about the log in our own eyes, to look at the ways we are not successful. To look, and for me, success is not just about money. Success could be things about influence. It could be how do you communicate. It could be how much love are you showing. It could be why are you doing? What big dreams do you have? What vision are you following? It could be your knowledge about something. We need to be successful at something to make people have the confidence to want to listen to us. Without success, it is hard to get audience. Without success, it is hard to get audience. Success leads to audience. Success leads to, in some cases, respect as well. I'll stop there. Those are the three things I wanted to cover very briefly for those who asked during the first session that how do we help remove speck from people's eyes when we have a log in our own eyes? Or how do we help people that have a log in their own eyes, but they're seeing the speck in our own eyes and saying, because of the speck in your own eye, I won't remove the log in my own eyes. So it's about how do we change those perceptions? And we talked about three things. One, we need to understand that we can't change anybody. We can pray for everybody. We can hope for everybody. We can encourage everybody, but do not get emotionally invested because people can make their decisions based on their experience, based on their emotions, based on something someone has told them, based on some information you may be unaware of. Therefore, there's a need for us to continue to pray and not be emotionally invested, which is why I said the first one is removing the log of ignorance or over expectation from your own eyes. Then the second thing we spoke about is that you could go the extra mile, speak to the person, get some information about the person, understand what makes the person tick. How does the person make decisions? Who does the person listen to? What does the person listen to? When the person has changed his or her mind, what were the factors that would help you craft an approach? You might say, how's that different from number one? It is different because number one, you are removing every expectation that the person will do as you've said. But with option two, you are looking at the whole thing and saying, okay, I know this person has this approach. Let me give it my best shot. Let me go in prepared. Let me go in with sufficient knowledge and information that would enable me break down the door. That is the third point and the second point. And the final one we used to wrap up is that without success, there is no audience. That people only listen to people they respect. In fact, they hardly listen to the people they respect, talk less of people they don't respect. The probability of people listening in to you is determined by how much success that you've managed to achieve. That is why when you speak to some people, they'll tell you, "Oh, my idol is, you know, Bishop Oyedepo. My idol is, maybe Lake Quincy Jones. My idol is Michael Jackson. And at times they don't have any interaction with that person. The person doesn't know them. They've never come close to the person. But because the person has achieved some success, they look up to that person as someone they need to listen to. That's human nature. we need to remove the log in our eyes, which is what are the things that are preventing us from being successful? What are the things that are holding us back from achieving what we ought to achieve? When you are successful, you discover people would want to listen to you more. It's the law of human nature. Removing the log from your own eyes, and before removing the speck from another person's eyes, is making sure that you can focus on your journey and be victorious, because the victory you achieve would be the story that you give the other person. The achievement that you have would be the much needed tonic the person needs. And if even if it's for nothing, you achieving things makes the person respect you enough to listen. Therefore, the log in our eyes is that one of the logs we have to remove is what's holding us back from being successful ourselves. Could it be we're not listening to people? Could it be we're not listening to ourselves? Could it be we're not listening to what God is saying? Could it be that we're not taking enough risk? Or could it be that we're taking too much risk but not calculated? There are so many things, and that is why we need to sit down, remove the log, because once the log is out of our own eyes, suddenly it becomes so easy to influence people. It becomes easy for people to say, wow, this person has done this, has done that. I want to be like them. I want to associate with that person. And they begin to get the benefits from it all. I hope this has helped. It's been a bit quiet. I don't know if it's our software. There's been hardly any response, but I think it's also a heavy topic as well. We want to give us time to digest it. Yeah, so I'll begin wrapping up now. So hope we've all gained something. I would have loved to get some feedback from everyone and on what you have learned. And part of the reason I'm asking this question, what you've learned, is at times some insights come to people that may not be discussed. They just get sort of like an idea from nowhere and they're like, oh gosh, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you've received any of such ideas, please feel free to share. I would like to know. Okay. Oh, thanks, Yossi. Yossi said, yeah, that she's just listening. Yeah, hope this is showing up. Yeah. Okay. No, no problem. If everyone's just listening, just hopefully this has been useful to everyone. I know it's been useful to me as well. One thing that might be very useful is to talk about maybe chronic stubbornness, where people are chronically stubborn, where they don't listen to anything. I know someone who once told me that even if they see an angel, they'll still argue it. Even if they believe, God is telling them something, they'll still argue it because they need to state their own side of the matter. What can you say in such situations? But I believe more importantly in points one and B, the 3 points, that one, let's not get emotionally invested. Two, let us do some work in order to understand how we can influence the person. And three, let us work on our own success, do everything. Because at the end of the day, you won't be judged for what somebody else did. You'll be judged based on what you've done. You'll be judged based on how much of God's gift and talent you've utilized. You'll be judged on how much you've, you know, preached the word, how much you've helped the sick, how much you've helped the needy, how much you have caused the expansion, of the kingdom of God on earth. Those will be the things we'll be judged about. So, hope this has been useful. Thank you, everyone. And next week, okay. Oh, thank you very much, Ma. So, Pastor Kuplo, you said it's been a very useful discussion. Thanks. Okay, thank you very much, Ma. Yeah. So, thank you, everyone. Next week we would be doing another topic, and in two, three, is it? Yeah, by this time next month, I'm looking forward to it already. We'll be having a session with evangelists who is currently in Nigeria doing sort of like a rural evangelism program. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be really exciting. And this week, a bit of sad news but good news at the same time. Someone who was a supporter of Unbox Praise has gone to glory. Apostle Sunday Bayode. I won't forget when we spoke. I think about 3 years ago. He was so excited about vision of Unbox Praise, helping people. He even introduced me to a few members of Unbox Praise, and he on his own he went out and did a 21 days prayer and fasts for Unbox Praise, strictly for Unbox Praise. He's going to be with the Lord. Very painful, but we know he has gone to rest. But yeah, personally, I feel the loss, and I think a lot of people in the music industry don't know how much he's been praying for everyone as well, selflessly. So this week we might play a few clips, some of the songs he has done, how he's influenced people. Most likely that will be next week because this week might be a bit emotional. So, but next week, by God's grace, I'll spend some time looking at his life and sharing what is so beneficial about it. More importantly, about how he rose from being a poor village boy into attaining and, you know, playing music at some of the highest levels in the country, and the people he has helped sort of mentor and what they're doing now. I think that would be a good one just to encourage us. Oh, thank. Okay, wow. So we have, yeah. Okay, thank you, Dari. That's help. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. So wonderful to see you on Let's Discuss. Hopefully, we'll have you talking to us about some of the wonderful things you've been talking about and sharing. So, thank you, everyone. Have a great week. And remember, this week, try and think about something big you can do. Don't think you should continue the things you're doing. Think about something big. The people who have achieved things thought about something big. You might say, I don't know anything big. Just look at what you are doing and think, how can I increase it 10 times? How can I increase it 100 times? And you'll be so surprised. Let us begin to take risk. Let us begin to do big things. Let us not limit ourselves. Let us not live life as a normal person because time we don't have all the time. So let us start today and God will bless us. Have a great week, everyone. God bless you. Love you all. Bye.